Hello and welcome. I'm going to get us started today by sharing my screen. My name is Dr. Brenda Mack, and this is Addressing Egg-Related Stress, Self-Care, and Resiliency, bringing this webinar to you in partnership with the Northwest Minnesota Foundation. A little bit about myself. I grew up in a farm family in East Grand Forks, Minnesota, and I'm currently married to a fourth generation crop farmer. I have a doctorate in social work from the University of St. Thomas, and I'm a researcher, writer, educator, and presenter. For 21 years, I provided therapy and crisis response services in a farming community in northwestern Minnesota. And for the past 3 years, I've been a full-time assistant professor in social work at Bemidji State University. This is a picture of our farmstead where our farm operation is located, and on the right side of your screen is the little greenhouse that we live in. I've had the opportunity to present and consult on the issues of building resiliency among those in the farm community, and often in partnership with Shauna Reitmeyer, who grew up in a farm family and is currently the executive director of Northwestern Mental Health Center in Crookston, Minnesota. Shauna also has recorded a webinar as part of the Northwest Minnesota Foundation series, and I would encourage you to check that out, as well as our dear friend Monica McConkey, who also has a webinar through this series. The information that I'm offering today is based on my lived experience. It's my sharing the observations that I had and have in how I handle stress and how others in my life handle and have experienced stress and build their resiliency. It's based on my professional background and best practices research. You are an expert in your own life, however, so tailor the content that is offered today that's relevant for you. And much of what I provide can be applied to a variety of different roles in farming and agriculture. So there may be a farmer who listens to this presentation, but there also might be a banker or a lender who listens to this, who thinks about how can I support those customers that I work with who are in the ag industry, but how can I also apply these stress reduction techniques to my own life. So my message here is to tailor this to how this works for you in your own circumstance, in your own job role, in your own life, basically. Some of the topics I talk about might bring up some unexpected thoughts or feelings. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself in the moment and reach out to others if you are struggling. The information is not intended to be treatment. It's intended to be offered as tips and strategies and ideas about how you can take care of yourself, decrease your stress, and build your resiliency. Simon said it best when stating, "For several years, farmers have faced increasingly high levels of stress as markets tanked, weather destroyed crops, and hard work and long hours proved inadequate to ensure profits. Now, COVID-19 adds one more burden to an already heavy load." Stress can be defined in a number of ways, but I found that this medicine.net article defined it best, where it's a fact of nature in which forces from the inside or outside world affect an individual's emotional or physical well-being or both, that individuals respond to stress in ways that affect them as well as the environment around them. And due to the overabundance of stress in our modern lives, we usually think of stress as a negative experience. But from a biological viewpoint, stress can be neutral, negative, or a positive experience. I'm going to focus, I typically don't focus on the negative, but I am going to focus on when stress works against us today. What are some of the typical signs and symptoms of stress? Disrupted or excessive sleep, feelings of worry and sadness, changes in mood, difficulty making decisions, an inability to concentrate, a change in physical appearance, headaches, stomach aches, withdrawal from others, feelings of hopelessness, and increased alcohol or other substances use. So now that I've defined what stress is, and you have that foundation of, all right, this is, and maybe you're thinking about, this is how stress shows up in my life. This is how negative stress shows up in my life. And I would encourage you to think about that for, just a few seconds, because now I'm going to shift into, so what can we do about it? Farmers are problem solvers, and those involved with farmers or ranchers are problem solvers. And so I want you to think about, how are you going to problem solve in your own life, reducing stress? I wanted to make this really as simple as possible. Strategies to reduce your stress do not need to be complex. I want to talk about the analogy of the three-legged stool to increase your self-care and reduce your stress. The first component is healthy relationships and connection to others. Connection to others fuels resiliency. Healthy connections with others fuel resiliency. The physical component includes taking care of your biological needs. So eating and drinking right, drinking water, eating fruits and vegetables, getting an adequate amount of sleep per night, increasing your exercise or maintaining and sustaining your exercise if you already have an exercise routine, and limiting your alcohol and caffeine consumption. The third leg of the stool is our ability to change our self-defeating self-talk to empowering self-talk. And I'm going to give some examples of each one of these legs of the stool. Connection with others is critical. And connection with others may look different for somebody who's more introverted, wherein they re-energize by maybe being alone or having some alone time, as opposed to extroverts who increase their energy and really refuel themselves by being around others. And, even at the end of a long day, if you work in a farm operation and you have employees who work for you and work with you and you're around individuals all day, if you're an extrovert, maybe you continue to get your energy and feel that resilience and ability to bounce back from things when you still go home at the end of the day and you want to be around others. You want to have, think of your dinner table where it's surrounded by family and friends. Um, that kind of example. So there are a variety of ways to connect, and what I encourage you to do is I encourage you to connect in ways that make sense for you. That healthy relationships expand beyond family and friends, that oftentimes things like faith-based practices and connecting with your pastor or being part of a Bible study group can be very energizing and help you connect with others. Want to talk a bit about how social media can help you connect with others and increase those connections. And especially, during COVID-19, we have found really creative ways as human beings to connect with others, um, but be physically distancing ourselves. So we are still socially connecting. So such as, using the Zoom platform to connect with friends and have a coffee chat, or picking up, your phone and uh, calling your cousin who you haven't talked to in a while, but who you've always found to be somebody that you can lean on. So I want you to think about, who's your person? Who are your people? I really enjoy the television show Grey's Anatomy, and two of the characters on the show, Dr. Meredith Grey and Dr. Christina Yang, they talk about they are each other's person. That um, I want you to consider, who is that person that you would call in the middle of the night if you just found out that you won the lottery? Or who is that person that you could call in the middle of the night if you had a medical emergency and needed to be taken to the emergency room? Part of building your resiliency and dealing with stress is to be able to confide in others, talk to others, and not hold all of that in your heart and in your soul and in your mind without sharing that with somebody else. Moving on, physical self-care includes eating healthy, drinking water, getting a good night's sleep, exercising, and limiting your alcohol and caffeine consumption. So this doesn't mean that um, you can't enjoy a brownie, or you can't enjoy um, a fettuccine alfredo meal. It means, though, that when we fuel our body with healthy foods, it has a direct impact on our overall health and how we feel. I know as a crisis provider, one of the things that I would often ask those who I was working with who I could detect were distressed is, how are you eating? What are you eating? Are you drinking enough water? And tell me about your sleep habits. Tell me about your sleep patterns, because that is one sure sign that somebody might be struggling, is not being able to sleep, or sleeping too much and not wanting to get out of bed. So these are examples of that second leg of the stool regarding what can you do in your life to prompt you to pay attention to these areas and make some changes that might help you feel better. The third leg of the stool is the cognitive leg of the stool. And I want to give you an example here of an empowerment worksheet that I created. And this worksheet is available to be downloaded on the Northwest Minnesota Foundation website. And so I want to just explain this briefly. On the left side of your screen, you'll see the old pattern. On the right side of your screen, you'll see the new pattern regarding thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So our thoughts directly impact our feelings, which directly impact our behavior and behaviors. So let me give you a couple of examples. An old pattern of self-talk that I am encouraging you to change, or this particular person that I'm using as an example to change, is this person might be thinking to themselves, you know, last fall, let me back up. Last fall was a really difficult farming season in northwestern Minnesota. We had an incredibly wet season, and many of our farmers were unable to get all of their crops out of the field, including my husband and our family. We left about 50% of our sugar beet crop in the ground, which in my husband's 27 years of farming has never happened. And so I know that one of the thoughts that farmers were experiencing is, I am a failure at farming. I could not get the crop out of the field. And so when that self message is given, the feelings that it often prompts are things like being worried, sad, embarrassed, depressed, frustrated. And that could lead to a behavior of having a short temper, snapping at others, being unable to sleep because you have these ruminating thoughts about you're a failure and you couldn't get this crop out of the field, which could also lead to a behavior of drinking alcohol too much. We don't have control over, we didn't have control over the weather last fall. But what we do have control over, and that's really the purpose of this reframing worksheet, is we have control over our thoughts. And so think about, instead of that farmer saying, I'm a failure at farming, that the self thoughts and the talk that they're using is, I did everything in my power to get that crop off the field, and I never gave up. I never gave up. That invokes a feeling of empowerment and hopefulness and self-compassion, which hopefully will lead to being able to talk to others in a calmer, more respectful, more peaceful way. That with these kinds of thoughts and these kinds of feelings, it can lead to better sleep and drinking in moderation. I want to give you some other strategies regarding this empowerment, or what we have control over to reduce our stress leg of the stool. There is a psychologist, his name is Dr. Martin Seligman, and he's known for the field of positive psychology. And he did a study that led to individuals experiencing a greater level of happiness. And it's called the 3 good things activity. Every night before you go to bed, have a notebook next to on your nightstand, or have the notes app on your phone where you can write down or record 3 good things from your day. I encourage you to do this for a period of time, 3 weeks, a month, heck, ongoing if you want to. What you want to do is, you don't want this to become a monotonous exercise. You want to be mindful about what specifically happened in my day. What are those 3 good things? And focus on those and write those down before you go to bed at night. Having a gratitude journal, writing about the things or the people or the relationships in your life that you're grateful for. taking some time to do that regularly and getting that information down on paper or typing it on an app on your phone is shown to increase our levels of happiness. Writing letters or notes of appreciation. Who are you thankful for? Who are those individuals in your life who make a difference? And expressing that. If you can write that out and send that to that individual or individuals, great. If you can write that out and read it to those individuals, even better. Practicing 365 days of gratitude. There's actually a TED Talk that I think if you Google 365 days of gratitude, that talks about this. That there was a young man who, for 1 year period of time, every day, found a way to express his gratitude. And think about what that would be like, how that makes a difference in your life, in how you think and how you feel and how you behave. And then finally, another strategy is random acts of kindness. That there's been studies have shown that random acts of kindness make a difference in our levels of happiness and increasing those levels of happiness. And these don't need to be things like, buying the person behind you in the Starbucks drive-through line, buying their order for them. But it could be something like, going and mowing the lawn of your elderly neighbor. So it doesn't need to be an extravagant act of kindness, but not only are you going to be doing this to increase how you feel, but it has a ripple effect on the recipient of your act of kindness. I'm encouraging you to make your three-legged stool self-care plan simple. It doesn't need to be extravagant. There are self-care templates out on the internet where there are additional components or areas that you can look at, that you can embed in your self-care plan. Again, I wanted to just give you one example of this three-legged stool, which again, there's a downloadable template on the Northwest Minnesota Foundation website where you can use this. So I'm going to give you an example here of what a plan might look like. On a daily basis, I'm going to talk to my spouse, a friend, or others in my egg community about what I'm worried about, but also about what's going well. That I'm going to fuel my connection and talk about what's going on for me. That I am going to drink water every day. In the morning, when I get up, I'm going to take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes of time to do some deep breathing and relaxation in the morning. One of the things that I like to do is I have an inspirational and motivational book that I pick a saying or a chapter to skim through or read every morning as I'm doing some of this mindfulness exercises. Taking a walk or another form of exercise at least 3 times a week. And I know many of us in the agriculture community, we are getting a lot of exercise as we're out in the field, or as we are in the barn. We're doing a lot of walking every day. But this is also, it's proven that exercise helps to reduce stress. So again, this is going to look different from individual to individual, and I want you to think about how are you embedding exercise into your weekly routine. And then at the end of the night. So we started out the day with some just deep breathing or reading from a motivational book. And at night, I'm going to, and this self-care plan includes writing down or recording an e-note about 3 good things that happened in your day. So the takeaway that I want to offer is I am challenging you to create your own individualized 3-legged stool self-care plan. I want you to post it on your fridge or in your tractor or in your barn, or take a picture of it on your phone and have it with you. Reference it, look at it, share it with people, share it with your people. And again, there are downloadable versions of these templates available on the Northwest Minnesota Foundation website. This slide provides you some resources regarding the topics and the strategies that I've offered today. And I want to extend my appreciation to the Northwest Minnesota Foundation and to Don Ganji for making this a priority, reaching out to farmers and those in the agriculture community a priority for their organization. It's been a pleasure to partner with you on this project. And as we end today, I want you to think about, as you look at this picture of my family bringing in the wheat crop, I want you to think about connecting with others and practicing self-care will strengthen our resiliency and better prepare us to deal with the ups and downs of farming. Thank you, and be well.